Our first subtitle for today is the election of 1856. So the issue in this election still mostly revolves around slavery. That's what it's going to be up until the start of the Civil War, and of course after the Civil War when they're fighting over slavery. But once again, the South is looking for a president that is pro-slavery, or at least is not going to allow the North to get rid of slavery. And so they're still pushing for those Democratic candidates that tend more towards the South. Although, as we've seen, they're getting a lot of candidates that are Democrats and pro-slavery, but from the North to kind of be compromise candidates. The same goes for our Democratic candidate in this election, James Buchanan. He's from Pennsylvania, so kind of in the middle, but he, once again, tends more towards the South. He's not strongly outspoken on the issue of slavery, but he's certainly not anti-slavery. So that's good enough for the South again. Franklin Pierce, the previous president, is rejected by his own party. He's become too unpopular by the end of his presidency to be considered as a viable president for this next term. So Pierce is thrown out. Douglas is in the running, Stephen A. Douglas, but he's overtaken by James Buchanan, who is actually a very well-known politician at this time and has had over 40 years of experience in law and politics. Now, for the Republicans, a new party that's springing up after the Kansas-Nebraska Act, the Republicans put forward John C. Fremont. If you remember all the way back to the Mexican-American War, Fremont was the one who led the rebellion in California. So he's kind of well known again as a war hero, but he is very vocally anti-slavery. That's actually exactly what the Republicans want, although they're having a hard time finding a balance between anti-slavery, which most of them want as their view, and being too outspoken about it and then losing votes. So they're kind of trying to find a good moderate voice to take up the cause for the Republicans. But Fremont himself is anti-slavery. So they come up with this nice, catchy phrase for him: free soil, free speech, Fremont. So free soil, of course, referring to the new states that are being added to the Union being free states. Then we have the know-nothings here again. If you remember back to when we talked about the know-nothings a while ago, they are anti-immigrant and anti-Catholic. Now they've rebranded themselves not as the know-nothings, but as the American Party. But their views remain pretty much the same. They put forward an old friend, Fillmore, as their candidate again. But most people aren't going for the know-nothings at this time. Most people realize that there's kind of a danger in their views. So we can see on this electoral map, only Maryland goes for the know-nothings. So not many votes for them. In fact, Lincoln, saying about the know-nothings, he said that if the know-nothings come to power, it will be all men are created equal except blacks and foreigners and Catholics. So that kind of gives a summary of their views and what people think of them at this time. Buchanan does ultimately win this election, but he only gets 45% of the vote. So it's actually fairly close between him and Fremont, only a difference of about 500,000 votes. So when you're ready, continue on to the next few slides. We'll see some pictures of the candidates, and then we'll move on to more of Buchanan's presidency.